the variable is?
Hello, everyone. I'm gonna butt into your conversation real quick. I'm sorry. We are we are about ready to get going. So I don't know. It doesn't matter where you stand that much. Honestly, this is a fine spot because I'm gonna start going from left to right and explaining things. So welcome, everyone. What's up? Oh yeah, the music. We're gonna see if we can turn off the music. This is gonna be a task. Oh wait, you know, just mute it. Music is off. Yep, I just turned it to volume 0. Okay, cool. Welcome to the second Circuits V2 Workshop from Adults Who Play Rec Room. I will be your host this time, and maybe Phil will chime in and help me out as well. Putting you on the spot. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're just going to start with the basics, and we're going to go over all the stuff that's on this wall here, and after that we're going to pair up in groups and do some challenges. Okay, so let's get started with the and, or, and not logic. So in Circuits V2, one thing that you'll do a lot is you'll need to check like a state of something. So for example, is a button pressed? Is it running? And what that is that is shown by true or false values. So if you see on these chips here, you have this false and you have this true here. So one thing that you'll need to do often is you'll need to like change the way that these true and false values are being seen in the circuits to make things happen. So for example, if you need to know if the game is not running, so if it is running, it'll be true, but if it's not running, it'll be false. So you want to know if it's running, or you want to know if it's not running, so it needs to be true when it's false. So what you can do with that is this chip right here, the not, can a true or false symbol, or a true or false value. So right now it's going in false, and it's coming out true. If it was going in false, or if it was going in true, it would come out false. And we have another visual on the bottom here. This is true, and it's coming out false. And there are other conditions that you can do, such as checking to see like if multiple things are happening at once. For example, let's say you have something in your room where all players have to press and hold a button in like different parts of the room to make something happen. So it would be true or false values based on the button press, right? So it would be true if they were pressing the button, and it would be false if they weren't pressing the button. So if you need to check if just one of the buttons were pressed, you would use the OR here. So the OR takes in true or false values, and it outputs true if at least one of them is true. So you can see in this bottom example, both of these ORs are true. Both of these are true, so this outputs as true. And in this OR up here, you see that one of them is true and one of them is false, so it outputs as true. And right here, this OR has both false values, so this is going to be false because none of them are true. So, you know, you can think of this just as you would say it in a sentence. If this button is pressed, or this button is pressed, or this button is pressed, then we want it to happen. But if none of them are pressed, then by me saying that, I don't want that to happen. So the last one here is the AND, which what this does is, going back to our button example, is it outputs a true value if all of the inputs are true. So we have this top one here. Both of these values are false, so this is outputting false. None of them are true. In example, none of the buttons are being pressed, so it's outputting false. And in this one right here, we have true and false. So this is outputting false because only one of them is true. In our example, again, only one of the buttons is being pressed, but the other one is not. So that's not what we want. But in this one, we have two true values pumped into this AND, so this is outputting a true. So in our button example, this would mean both of the buttons are being pressed, so we get a true output from that. Okay, so I just said a bunch of stuff. What does it how do we apply this in the circuits? What does this mean? How do we use these chips to do stuff? So the next important chip is this chip right here, the if chip. So as you can see, this if chip wants to know a true or false value. So let me back up for a minute and say that circuits are done from left to right. So you have on this side of the chip, you have the inputs, and on this side of the chip, the right side, you have the outputs. So in these chips over here, all of these things on the left are inputs. All of these things on the right are outputs. So, like for example, in our OR, we have a true input going into the chip and a false input going into the chip, and this chip is doing whatever it has to by its label and outputting the value that it wants to give us. So we can connect the inputs and outputs together to make things happen. So this output on this OR, for instance, can feed into this input on this if. So the if allows us to do things based on a true or false value. So for example, in this instance where we have our button pressing, and two players are pressing a button, we want something to happen if both buttons are pressed. So in this case, what we would want is we would want an AND. We would want to know if button 1 is pressed and button 2 is pressed, and then we can feed this AND value into our if, and if it is false, we can run the circuits that are connected to this output, but if it's true, we can run the circuits that are connected to this output. So there are many things that you can use this for, not just button pressing. You can check numbers, for example, and we're going to be doing that later on. So let's say you have some currency in your room that players can earn, and you want them to be able to buy something with it. So you to buy the thing, and it needs to check, okay, do they have enough? So that would mean, is their currency amount greater than or equal to the price that you are requiring? And then you can use this if chip to check that and pump in the greater than or equal to true or false output into this if. So that is majority of it for the logic here. And what these are called, I don't know if I said it, true or false values is called a bool, a boolean. Bool is short, whichever one works. I think most of the time you'll see the shortened version, just bool, which is B-O-O-L, and that you can see that over here. Well, we will move on to our variables. So our variables are pretty important for making things, especially games. Really just about a lot of stuff that you're going to make, you're going to want to use variables for this. So at a very basic level, what variables are just to store values and information. So I go back to the currency that I was talking about. In that case, your currency would be a number, right? Your number would be stored in a variable. And we have types of variables that we can work with. So we've already seen the bool type. We've already seen the true or false values. So in this case, with the bool variable, we can store a true or false value inside of this variable. So let's say, like, you know, is the game running? We can store that in this variable so that we know this variable can tell us whether the game is running or not. And so we have a bunch of different other types. There are a lot of types in Circuits V2. This is like, these 4 types are like the basic types that are the most important. So right here we have the float type, and what this is this is a number, and this number lets you have decimal points in it. So, you know, it's any number that you'd expect. Like in this case, we have 15.67. You can have 9.5. Decimals are not required, so you can simply have 2 if you want. And this number can be stored inside of this float variable. And these types, none of these types are specific to just being able to be stored. They will be used by many chips that you'll see. So what we have next is we have the int, otherwise known as the integer. Int is just short, so that's what you'll see most of the time. Integer is a number, but this time we're not allowed to have decimal. At first this may be a little confusing. Why would you want to restrict yourself to not being able to use decimals? So really what you want to use ints is if you need a value that you can count on. So for example, let's say that you have the currency, right? The currency, even though you maybe want to have like cents or something like that, like you have dollars, you'll want to use integer because floats are more for like calculations and math, and it's like represents all the positions of objects that we see. Like for example, my hand's moving around. So the thing about floats is that they can change a lot. So they can be a little unreliable if you're trying to do specific checks, such as, hey, does this person have $2? That check will not work super well for you if you were trying to do it with floats. So if you want to be confident that when the person has $2, they have exactly $2, you're going to want to use integers for that. So the next one is string, and this one is pretty fun. This one is any text. So right here in this example we have cookies. It doesn't have to just be letters, you know, it can be numbers too. It'll still be a string, it'll still be text, but there can be numbers included in there. And of course you can store this string value in a variable. So let's say maybe you want to store a player's name inside of a variable. You can do that with the string variable. All right, I'm gonna slow down and stop there for a bit and ask, does anyone have any questions about what I've said so far? Any questions at all? Please, what's up?
With the and the or any of those basics, can there be more than one input? Because I mean, obviously there's 2 inputs on there, but can you have 3 inputs or 4 inputs? And is that
yeah. So yes. So with these chips, all of these chips except for the not chip, and this might be obvious because you can only really reverse one Boolean value at a time. But all of these, the or, the and, you can configure these chips with the configure tool and add more inputs to them if you like. So like, you know, in the button example, we could have like 4 buttons connected to one and. So yeah, you can do that. Any other questions? Please, there are no dumb questions. If you have at all, please speak up. All right,
So with
I'll come.
the
Okay, yeah.
with the string value chip, could you use something like that to, like, say if a specific player enters a room, then that specific player gets a role or an ability or something of that nature?
Actually, no. You can use that to like say the player's name if you wanted to, but there is another type called the player type that would let you do that. And we might see that as well.
There's more variables than just
Okay,
these four,
cool.
but these are the basic ones.
Yeah,
that you-
there's much more.
Yeah, the neon.
Yeah,
Quaternion.
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 Watermelon.
But I like that. I like how you pronounce it. I'm gonna call it that from now on.
Quadrinion.
I was just looking. I was like, "What is this?"
That's all right. It's all right.
Oh my
Part of
gosh.
the process.
Watermelon.
Yeah. All right. What's up? You had a question?
This is a PvP question. Let's say that someone has a specific weapon, like say a paint pistol or paint rifle, and is there a way that you can use some of these chips to set certain amount of ammo, like say when they run out they have to pick up another gun, like when you run out of ammo, like can you set the limits?
So currently there is no that stuff ties into the game rules, the game rules chip. Currently there is no interaction in Circuits v2 with the game rules, and there won't really be. What it's going to be is the game rules will be built with Circuits v2. So I'll quickly explain this to you how you might set this up in Circuits v in a world in Circuits v2 when it has more features of how you would set this up. So what you would want to do is you would want to have in your weapon a variable, an integer variable, for how much ammo you have. And when you shoot, you can subtract from that variable, and when you have 0, you will disallow it to shoot using this boolean if over here. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I know that doesn't immediately answer your question, but yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
It helps. It helps a lot.
Awesome. What's up?
What did you say? INT.
What are some like
Integer,
common
Full numbers.
uses for like, so like if I'm using and, would that be like if this player has 5 currencies and this, she's already purchased this upgrade
yep.
or whatever? Okay, so what about
That is ease.
not?
Not? Mm-hmm.
What is a
So
common use for
let's yeah, so let's go with your example. So you can keep track of if they bought something. What if you need to know if they have not bought something? You can use the not for that.
Makes sense.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anyone? Speak up if I'm missing you as well. What's up?
So, is it possible to use any of these? We play a lot of charades, and we've been, trying to figure out how we can make like custom cards. Is it possible to use any of
Ooh.
these to try and do that?
Yes, you could probably set that up. Yeah. What you would want to do is you would want to use a string for the custom cards that you would want, and there's a text gadget that you would want to use to show what the prompt is.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions? Any at all?
So you're
Alright.
saying that the main function of the string, of the string chip is to add text to a text tool, essentially.
Yeah,
so
you
just
can
add
add text to a
multiple
text
strings
tool.
to it and use that. Okay.
Another thing you can do is you can show a notification on a player's screen. I'm sure you've seen that. Just like cover your screen and the text in the middle.
Yeah.
You can use that as well.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions? Any at all? Okay. Well, I think we're going to move on then to the events. So, events are pretty interesting. So, events are a way that you can communicate between your circuits like wirelessly. So without necessarily knowing what circuits you're talking to. So let's see. what you can do is you can create an event. So in this example, we have an event definition here. This event definition is a chip. You place an event definition chip to make a new event. And this allows you to configure these event sender chips and the event receiver chips to be connected to this event definition. So, for example, we don't have the labels here, but this event sender would be configured to the event definition, and each of these receivers are also connected or configured to the event definition. So in the actual event receiver and event sender chip, you will see the name of the event that it is connected to, because you can rename this chip and call your event whatever you want. Start game, hit player, whatever fits your use case. So what this allows us to do is this allows us to send a circuit signal from one circuit to another circuit or another bunch of different circuits. So right here we have this event sender, and it is configured to this event definition. So once we send a circuit signal to this event sender, it will look for all of the event receivers that are configured to that event definition and cause them all to get that circuit signal and fire and do whatever is connected to them. You can have as many event receivers as you want. You could just have one if you want to. You could also have none, but there's not really a point in that. Another thing that I'll briefly mention as well is that you can also configure the event definition to pump through different values when you send the event. So for example, let's say that I have an event for giving players a currency. So this event definition, I'd probably call it give currency. And what I can do is configure this event to have an integer type on it. So what I can do is send the circuit signal, but also an integer with it. And these receivers will be able to receive the circuit signal and the integer. I fell. Okay. So, are there any questions about events? Any at all? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's up? Do you have a question? Yeah.
So the event definition I can configure basically with any of the variable types. Is that how that works?
Yes. So all of these are types that you can use in circuits: bool, float, int, string, and you can add any of the types to your event definition that you want to send through.
Thank you.
So, any more questions? We actually, yeah, we're totally gonna practice with the events again. What's up?
I have one, and it's just a small one. If you have events kind of way, going on and all that stuff, is there like any limit that you have to have, that you have to work with?
Yeah. Okay. So there's no limit, no known limit to how many events you can have. There is a circuits limit that is separate from ink space. It's called heat, and you'll be able to see this once we start using the circuits. You'll find it in the circuits CV2 tab on your palette, and it takes up the heat as the circuits are doing stuff. So if your circuits aren't doing anything, the CPU is going to be zero, or sorry, the heat will be zero. And we'll see that when we move on to using them.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
So the
What-
sorry, I have a question. So the heat
Mhm.
is only using, it's only calculating how much heat is being used currently. So like, is there a way to only have some circuits fire sometimes and some circuits fire at other times? To save
So
money?
the way, yeah, you could totally set something up like that. Generally, it's not a problem with most of the things unless you're just using a specific event called update. Um, so an update is just an event that will fire a signal over and over and over again, like constantly. So what happens is, like, let's say you have a button that does some things, and nothing. You're just standing beside the button. The circuits are running, so none of your heat is being taken up. When you push the button, the instant you push the button and the circuits are doing something, the heat is added up, and it'll go down immediately after the circuits stop. It basically is just a way so that Rec Room can make sure that players aren't crashing because you're doing too much.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What's up?
I feel like I'm in school. Oh, I'm streaming. So I have Elf, because Elf can't be here, so I'm streaming for
Oh,
her.
okay.
She's wondering,
Awesome.
because she came in late, what basically for.
Sorry, I skipped out a bit there. What's that?
Events for is what she's asking. Like, what? She came in a little late.
So the events are for being able to communicate between different circuits that are not necessarily connected. Let's say I'll bring back the example that I used. Let's say that I have a set of circuits that can add a currency to someone. So what I can do is I can set up an event called add currency, and I only have one set add currency of the circuits that do the add currency in the room. That's just being, controlled by an event receiver. And I can send the add currency event from anywhere in the room, and I do not need each of the things that can add currency to have a set of circuits that actually adds the currency. Does that make sense?
Does that make sense, Elf?
Where are you streaming this to, Net? Are you
Yes.
streaming this on the Discord?
It does?
On Twitch.
Oh, on Twitch. Okay.
Oh.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I don't have
whether
any
you can
followers.
make
It's okay.
Okay. No worries.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah, she said it makes sense.
Okay, cool. Any other questions from anyone? Any questions at all?
I have a question,
What's up?
Jeff. So can you have an event sender with different receivers, but can you also have like 3 different senders sending to one receiver?
Yes. Yep. You can totally do that.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Awesome.
That's a great question.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know.
Mm-hmm.
I like the example of
All right.
different
Um,
access points and multiple phones at home with like Wi-Fi basically. You can have multiple access points, but you can also
Uh-huh.
have multiple like mobile devices. It's kind of how I imagined it. That works quite well.
Mm.
So then what tells 2 event senders to send to the same receiver? Does it just,
Okay, yeah. So
do you have to wire
the
it?
event senders, no. So the event senders are connected to the event definition via the configure menu. So I've tried to visualize this using these these yellow lines behind them. So this event
yes,
sender
okay.
has been configured to this event definition, and all receivers have also been configured to this event definition. And there's nothing stopping you from taking another event sender and configuring it to a definition that another sender is already using.
That's helpful. I love the visual. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions about this, about events? Okay. Was it someone about to speak up? Did you hear something? Please ask if you have any questions. Okay, I thought I
Wait,
heard
I'm
someone.
confused. What do you mean configure?
Elf says she's fangirling.
The configure tool.
It's the
If you use the
famous
configure tool
cat
on the event senders and the event receivers,
Oh,
you can choose
and then you go to the chip
the event
settings.
definition that you've created. Yes.
Oh, you're making. Jolene's already making.
Once
them.
you name,
Yeah.
hey Jolene,
I
once
have
you
to be
name
like
the event
hands-on.
definition,
I have to be hands-on. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Once you
That-
name the
that's
event
fine. I think that's
definition,
fine. I think that's fine.
you
Yeah.
can find this.
I have no
sender.
problem with anyone just like placing out chips as we go over them. To be honest, I should have said that because it's kind of too late now. But all right. So just before we move on to doing some challenges, I want to make sure that everyone doesn't have any more questions about any of this that we've covered at all. If you thought about any questions, please do ask.
No, I think we'll be better off once we actually get them out and we start using them. That's when they're gonna have questions, I'm sure.
All right. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Cool. So now we're gonna do the challenges, and we're going to get into groups. So we're gonna just pair up. So go ahead and go to this group selection area that I forgot to move back down.
We have our,
And
we have ours over there.
We're already a group. Yeah, aren't we already a group? Because it says over there.
it doesn't matter. If you want to stick
You
together,
really
just
don't.
don't enter the group selection area.
Hey, Phil.
If you want to re-randomize, feel free.
I'm doing
I
this
told
to-
Updog
You
to
wanna
tell you I
randomize?
said hi, and then he's like, Julian
Alright.
said she likes your cut G.
Yeah, I heard that. I thought it was pretty
All right.
funny.
So
Commander's down. Look,
I'm gonna press a button, and what's gonna happen is two of you are going to teleport to the
Oh,
front
someone
of
just
the
moved the
room.
world.
So just a warning. Oh yeah, would someone mind pressing undo?
Oh Christ!
I
I
think
think that was over there.
I just have undo, delete.
got your
object.
Is it?
Yeah, so did
Okay,
I.
well-
I just undid.
Oh, I forgot to freeze everything from last time. I should have learned. Okay,
Oh, I did.
let's do
I did
that.
freeze everything.
It's frozen.
I-
Interesting.
I
If
did
Delicia
freeze
was in
everything.
here,
I
What
she
about
would
now?
scream
yesterday.
undo.
I
All right,
froze everything
it's
yesterday.
frozen.
I don't know how.
I didn't
The
think
Four
of
will
it
not
last
run
time.
away from us now.
Did you forget
Hopefully.
to save too?
No, I did.
All right.
save.
So I'm gonna go push some buttons, and let's see.
I was trying to
who we
be
get.
so prepared.
Let's see if it doesn't break this time.
All right.
No,
Would you mind stepping off of the seat? I actually don't think. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So I'm gonna hit form group. All right. We got Commander Wolf and Brandon. All right. So you two are a group. So go ahead and more people are gonna start coming in. So go ahead and step away if you'd like.
You're gonna be the
Right.
brightest, 'cause I-
Oh,
Orongus and Phil.
Nah, we got it.
All right.
Let's go.
So go ahead and step away from the seat.
we built a jump
Oh,
scare
that's
thing
We have
together. We could do it.
Sunset
I
and
did
Cat
it.
Keeper.
My partner.
Oh,
You did
yeah.
the animation.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's the famous up dog. Oh
Go
my
ahead and
god,
step
I
away from the
understand.
seat. I'm gonna
Or-
Why did my
Jolene
screen go black? Oh,
and
'cause I'm over
Jolene.
here.
Jolene, you're partnered with yourself. Congratulations. No, if you want to step back in the zone to try to get another partner.
Some wonderful.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and press
I'm scared, honestly.
Hey.
Tartan. Am I saying that right? Tartan.
Tartan Rainbow.
This is why we're here. We're here to clap.
Tartan and
I was
High.
kinda confused
All right.
the whole time,
Hi, would
and
you
I
mind
didn't know
stepping
how to
off?
ask any questions.
Stepping off of the seat. Thank you.
So Silent,
more.
are you good at this stuff?
Hey.
Elf says, "Oh my god, it's up dog."
Zipfinder and how do I say your name?
You can just call me Ammo.
Ammo. So he's
Yeah.
cool. All right. All right. More people are gonna come.
Dodgeball.
Bluebird
Oh.
and Freckleberry.
Yeah, Bluebird.
All right.
She spelled it up there.
And Sandy and Sandy.
Sandy goes for just fly back.
Do we have an uneven amount of
Back to
people?
the-
We
to the
don't.
area.
Do you want to step back in the zone so that you can get partnered with someone besides yourself?
She's fan- she's
We need to
fan-
refine this thing for the next time.
Yeah. All right, I'm pressing the button again. Jolene
What
and
happened?
Sandy.
It's
The
Sandy,
two
that's
solos are now together. All right, awesome.
That's good.
All right, Kivio and no one
Two
else.
people
Wait,
over
what?
to the-
What? Kim, go back. You can group up with the.
Yeah, you want to go back? Go
Aw.
back.
You guys could
Who
actually.
do
make
we
it
have an uneven amount of
three
people?
teams.
Join us. Join us.
Yeah, Updog just.
Yeah, okay.
Updog just joined.
All right. You're the last ones chosen, so by default you guys are together. You want to go? Okay. Okay, I'll press the button.
Wait, someone's gonna be. Oh, no, Updog has
There
to.
you go.
Oh, that's sad.
He was the one who told me to press the button too.
Oh. You got unchosen.
Go stand back there by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's
Awesome.
bugging out now.
That was so weird. It
It's
just went
just
black.
Xbox being there.
So
So me and
Now we
um,
gotta
Who's
play
the
this on
pumpkin?
circuit.
we're going to go ahead and get into the challenges. So everyone can step over here, spread out a little bit so that you have some room to build with your partner. And don't forget who your partner is.
I think I'm a stand.
All right.
my
So
goodness.
before I let you go, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna familiarize ourselves really quickly with how to browse Circuits V2 because it's a little bit confusing. So go ahead and get out your make pen and open up your palette. And to browse Circuits V2, the one thing that you're probably gonna want to do is go to the Circuits V2 tab.
I can't hear him.
Don't do that.
On him.
So what you're going to want to do to browse
And then do the
Circuits
mute
V2
menu.
instead is go to the search. So go to the magnifying glass icon
I still
to open
can't
the
hear
search
him.
menu in your palette.
Jeff,
Oh, can you not hear me? Tell Sandy to turn voices I can hear off.
Oh, okay, it's
And then
fine
back
now.
to all.
Yeah, I did it
Oh.
a second time. Okay, lovely.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Good.
So I'll repeat then. So in your palette menu, go to the search menu and not the Circuits V2 tab, so the magnifying glass. And in there, to the right, you'll see a bunch of categories that can filter out your searches. So, and you don't have to actually search. I basically never search. So to get to the Circuits V2, just click on Circuits V2, and that'll take you into the Circuits V2 category, and you'll see all of the chips there. So if you happen to know like what kind of thing you're looking for, if you're looking for like, for example, an add chip, you can scroll through those categories and find math, and then your add will be in the math category. So that is pretty much it for browsing Circuits V2. Don't use the Circuits V2 tab. Please don't use the Circuits V2 tab. If you look in the Circuits V2 tab, you'll see why. It's an unorganized mess. There are no filters at all in there. So if you want to put yourself through that, feel free, but I don't. So, the first challenge that we're gonna do is we're gonna get familiar. This is a little bit different than what I originally planned, but we're gonna get familiar with events. So, what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna, in result, make a button that can turn on a bunch of lights in the room. Don't go greater than 5. There's a reason for it. Just don't go greater than 5. I'll explain it later if anyone runs into. So, what we're gonna want from this, just to give you a little help, a little push towards there, in the Gadgets tab of the palette, under the CV2 Gadgets is where you'll find all of the gadgets that you can work with Circuits V2. So, the two things that you're gonna want with this is you're gonna want a button, and you're gonna want multiple point lights. Do we have ink space for this? Yeah, we should maybe.
Should be.
We're at
Maybe lights only.
Like,
Otherwise, just close your lights.
What's up?
What was I click on? I missed that.
Okay, so as you can see, all of the buttons, the button and the point light has a Circuits V2 chip that came with it, and that's called its object board. So it's attached to the object, to the light, to the button, and that's how you can interact with the light and button. So on there, you'll see the turn on and turn off. You'll see set color, which we won't need. So on the button you have pressed, released, and that's how you can get circuit signals from those. So what I want you to do, first thing, just to familiarize yourself, is make your button turn off one of the lights. That is the first challenge. And I will leave you to it.
Wire the button to the
I should say something that's important. If you're trying to connect inputs to the outputs, make sure you're using the wire tool on your maker pen. When you point at the different parts on the chips, so the inputs and outputs, like this for example, or this, you'll take the wire tool and drag from those to another chip, connect them.
When the button is pressed.
doesn't look like you can.
So do we need a press?
Oh no, wait.
Then
I'm missing
no, I
an
know.
input.
So-
click on. I'm hearing so many people.
Yeah, not the palette.
Oh.
To connect
Oh,
chips
right.
together,
Okay.
you'll want to
I'm
use the
hearing
wire
them over
tool
there and
on the
press.
top of your maker pen.
The wire tool. Yep.
Select wire.
Want me to lower the roller?
There you go.
Yeah, so what
And
do I
then
do
you
now?
can use that to point at these.
Elf's watching my live.
Extra wire.
Outputs to the inputs.
Get it. Yeah. I got it. Yeah. Yeah. Cheers. Lovely. Right. Okay. Now I got it. Yeah. I think we're very confused.
No worries.
Interesting. So the inputs go straight out to the two. So that's how you CV1 you use.
Just excuse me for 1 second while I ask a question. I noticed a lot of people have been doing, when you hold the button, the light will be on, and when you let go it'll be off. I just want to make sure, like that's fine, I like that. I just want to make sure that you did that on purpose. If anyone's having trouble figuring out how to just turn the light off when you press the button, please let me know. I just want to make sure that everyone's getting that. I'll see myself.
So now we're exploring some more stuff.
Oh wait,
Now
cool.
we color-
So that's
color
run. So
randomizers.
this input is just continuing through the chip. Imagine like a wire just goes through there. This is the after delay.
wait, you don't have the light on.
So after the 5 seconds, this after delay is gonna go.
You can
Okay, wait.
be pressed to turn it on, and then it will remain
Okay.
on.
Alternatively, something that's new is you can, only with the lights and the text, you can configure this and turn it on that way.
What? Oh, really? I didn't know you could manually turn on lights.
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh,
now.
you're
So I
right.
hope everything else gets that.
I think we did our homework.
I'll put it light down if you want.
It looks like you stole your homework. I've seen this somewhere else.
I'm gonna go back to that.
I'm watching you.
Sorry.
Yes.
Oh wow.
There you go.
Here we go.
Oh, no.
Whoa.
Yay!
Yeah.
Turn them off. Yay!
The wire tool on your maker pen.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Okay, so now you can point at these inputs and out. Oh, yes.
What have you done here?
Maybe don't spawn this. I don't know who spawned
Okay.
that, but
Yeah, spawn the wrong one.
so I'm gonna delete it. So you can now connect these outputs to the inputs of the chips with the
Okay,
wire tool
okay.
by taking your wire tool,
So-
hovering over them, dragging, and dragging them to the other inputs.
Okay. So would we do is pressed? Turn on.
So what you want is you want when the button is pressed. So when you press the button, you want to turn off
Yeah.
the light.
Okay. So it's pressed. Turn off.
Is pressed. If you hover over is pressed, you'll see. Cool. It's not a signal. So you want a signal, which is
Okay.
called an exec.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Has all
So,
the wires over there.
We're gonna move on to the next challenge.
Okay. Okay.
What we're gonna do is we're going to make it so that you can press your button to switch the lights from being off to being on. So if the lights are on and you push the button, it will be off. But if they're on and you push the button, they will turn. Or sorry, if they're off and you push the button, they'll. So for this, we're going to start playing with variables. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use a bool variable to store whether your lights are on or if they're off. So it'll be a true value if the lights are on. It'll be a false value if the lights are off. So if you don't know where to find variables, in the search menu, the Circuits V2 section, at the bottom category you'll see variables, and you can click in to find all the variables. There are a lot. Bool will be somewhere at the top, and grab one of those out. And I'll wait for people to start grabbing those out. Okay, so variables, as you might have noticed, have names. So some of you probably have your variable bool say variable bool 2, variable bool 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth. It just depends on what order you placed it in. So what you can do is you can configure the variable chip to give your variable a name. Just making sure everyone's variables are. Can configure the variable chip to give it a name. We're using a bunch of variables in this room, so give it a unique name. So maybe include your name in it, because what happens if two variable chips have the same name, they'll have the same value. So we don't want to conflict with others in the room, so make sure you name it something that you don't think anyone else will take. Otherwise your variables will be connected. So disclaimer number 2, variables have two different major types. I guess there's 3 cloud variables exist. So there is instance variables and there is synced variables. By default, your variables are instance, which means players can see different values inside of them, and it might come off as unstable behavior. To ensure that all players are seeing the same values in your variables, configure the variable to be synced. So that way you don't have any weird issues with, oh, I pushed the button and it said there was 3 in the variable, but someone else pushed the button and it said there was 1. So if you ever run into that problem, check that your variable is synced. It is useful to have unsynced variables. Sometimes it just depends on the use case. In this case, we want them synced because everyone will see the light as on or off. So for changing the variable, I just want to remind people, switching it from a true or false value, we're going to want to use one of these bool logic chips, and I will let you figure out which one. If you need help finding them, they are in the logic category under Circuits V2. Alright. Good luck. So just make it so that when you press the button, it'll swap between a true or false value inside of that variable. Yeah. I actually just realized I forgot to mention something. This output on the variable chip right here, this value output, and this is true for all of the types, this is how you get the value that is stored inside of the variable. That's what this is outputting. So that's what you can use with your Boolean logic chips to make the change to the chip. To set the variable, so to change the variable, you will want to send a circuit signal to this, and it'll take the value that's in here and store it in the variable. And I think that is all I need to say right now. So I will let you have at it. Yep, not exactly what you're looking for. Oops, sorry, Phil.
Look.
Not. Well done.
Not.
All right. Now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's me done. That's done. We're finished. Yay!
Am I correct?
Now you
Or
must
am I
make
dumb?
it so that when you press the button, it does
I'm done.
the swap. So this, if it's false, it'll turn to true. If it's true, it'll turn to false.
Okay.
When you
okay,
press the button.
right, okay.
Sorry, now it's false. Now it's true. Now it's false. Now it's true. So we need to go from here into the point light, but it's not the execute that's going through, because that's just based on the button being pushed. We need to get this value. So we need another Boolean chip to tell the light whether or not they're off.
Okay.
I'm flying.
So now what we want is, so when we press the button, this variable is being set to false. So it's being changed to false. What we want to happen is we want it to change to the opposite of what it currently is, right? So right now, this variable right here, you can see if you hover over it, it's storing false. So we want it to set to true right now, and when it's true, we want to set it to false. So we use one of our logic chips to do that, and it looks like you already have it out. There you go. So right now you'll see this variable, this value inside the bool. Hover over the wire tool.
So it's that.
It's false.
That's false.
And this is giving you the reverse.
The turn on.
So this is what you want to change the value to.
Like that. So it checks on both.
So when you set the variable, that's the value that you want to change it to.
Is it actually a ball?
To make it switch from true and false.
Is it actually a ball?
There you go. So now what's happening, you press the button, it changes the variable's value to the opposite of itself. Here. So configure this variable, use the configure tool, and configure it to be synced. So there are two modes that variables have, which is synced and unsynced. Most of the time you probably want synced. Unsynced means that players can see different values inside of the variables, and that's what we just saw. But now we should always see the same value.
Oh, you can put two.
Everyone should. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
Awesome. Okay, cool. So the next thing that we will do is we're gonna use events. So if you didn't have it from earlier, if you deleted them, go ahead and place multiple lights and place them in bit random positions so that it becomes inconvenient to wire together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna expand this and make it so that when you press the button, it turns on or off multiple lights. And we're gonna do that using events so that we can place the lights in our room wherever we want, and we don't have a mess of wires going everywhere. So what you'll want to do is you'll want to get an event definition chip, and there is a category in the Circuits V2 tab for events, or you could use the commonly used tab because they're in there as well. So grab an event definition, name it whatever you want. You cannot conflict event names. It will not let you name it if someone else has taken the name. So, fight for the best name. So, what you'll want is you'll want to have an event receiver for every light to turn it off or on. And I will leave you to that. Don't forget that to hook the event receivers and senders to the events, you'll configure them. Alright.
So I accidentally chose the scenes one. Alright. And then the receivers. Oh, you're already doing the receiving stuff.
It's all about to try it if you know the events, you know. So I just told him I know the events and it was fine, so I don't have to do it. But yeah, normally it's like you have to get every event receiver for every light, you know.
Thank you.
Just so he knows that you understand it, basically. Or yeah, it's just so you can try it out.
This section of circuits right here is just checking to see if this variable needs to be changed to true or if it needs to be changed to false.
Okay.
After you're changing the variable, you're then moving on to send this event, and all of the event receivers get the value that the variable has.
Okay. So this is what's telling it it's true or false, and this is sending that information to here, this light, and it's continuing. If that's the condition, this one will turn on and this one will turn off.
So the event receiver,
Oh.
when this event gets sent, this is going to fire. And so that's when you want to check if. There you go.
Can I get a photo?
So that's the power.
No. Just kidding.
No. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Jeff, you weren't even looking. You were looking down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
3, 2, 1. Oh, Jolene, you're behind his wings. Let me do that one more time.
Jolene, fly up a little bit.
Alright, 3. Everyone, look. Phil, look at the camera. 3, 2, 1.
You look in the camera.
Thank you.
You're counting better, Kivio.
I didn't realize you're filming
Joker
me.
doesn't have these problems. He takes pictures.
I didn't realize
Thank you, Jeff. I'm gonna try to recreate this a few times. I'm gonna
Kivio,
help
I
Awesome.
did
Kat.
it. I'm so proud of
Hey, Mom. I'm famous.
Look at him.
You can switch your snapping mode on your maker pen to surface, and then you can use the move tool and just move it to a chip, and it'll snap to the same plane that the chip is on.
Did not know that.
And when you're creating chips, you can point at other chips to snap in on the same plane too. Well, I'll be right back. Alright, does it work?
I mean, they're all on though.
Yeah,
And then all off.
you got it.
Oh, I thought you meant like one light will turn on and the other ones will be off.
That's a bit too advanced for now. It's one
That's
at a
why I was
time.
just like, I don't understand. Okay.
Don't do Forrest Gump. You don't have to run away. Like you don't have to run right away.
I thought that's what he meant. I was like, I don't understand. But this does look a lot better. Not lines everywhere.
Next up, Jolene is gonna pick up quarter neons.
Watermelon. I'm
No.
just gonna call them watermelon chips.
Alright, that works. Let's just say they're watermelons.
Watermelon slurp. So this has gone for a long time. It's been what, over 2 hours now. So I think we're about to get to the end, but I just want to ask to make sure: does everyone have the events and setting up multiple lights with the event receivers to turn them on or off based on the bool that we had earlier in the video? If anyone have that, please speak up or is confused. Okay. So I just want to ask, anyone have any questions about what we've done? Any questions at all? Please do ask if you have any. There are no dem questions. No? So you guys are all circuit masters, right? Alright, awesome. So I think we'll wrap it up here then. I'm gonna head out. Do we want to get a group picture before we want to get? Okay, yeah, we're gonna get a group picture. I'll let KVO decide where we take that. So yeah, everyone get together and we'll get a group photo. Thanks everyone so much for coming. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, let's get a picture.
Hey, everyone, thanks.
too.
Everyone, thank Jeff for the great work and the great teaching. Clap. Yay! Good job. I think it works. Alright. Oops.
Show your maker pants. Yeah.
Literally just jumped up right in front of you. I just went in front of you.
Mine's
Sorry.
boring.
Alright. Wait, I gotta do it. Actually, I gotta do it this way. I'm becoming a pro at this now.
Is that too much? That's too much. I'm gonna just go down. That's fine.
Up, 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 up.
Yep, great.
Okay, good.
Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Cheese.
Yay! You wanna do one more? We'll do one more.
How
for
many
some
people are smiling in real life? That's what I want to know.
there's a lot of people.
Yes, we always do.
Sorry, I had to.
I think I need to take it closer.
Thank you.
We lost a lot of people on the way.
Bonk.
Ow.
Here, catch. Bonk,
No.
bonk, bonk.
Thank you so much for
feel-
organizing
I
this.
feel-
This is awesome.
Oh, no worries. I have to thank Jen Durku for getting it all together. And Phil, of course, for filming. You'll post that up in a few days.
Filming.
Oh, wow. That pun.
Oh, thank you.
That hurt. That hurt to listen. Alright, I'll let it slide this time. It wasn't the worst one I've heard.
Wait, everybody get tiny. Get in there.
Everybody.
Oh,
Ah,
One
yeah.
day.
Who
I'll
can
take
be
one
the
day.
big monster
I'm the
like
ti-
her?
Oh.
In the back, yeah.
Christ.
2, 1. Oh, just one. No.
Where's Jeff?
He's in the bedroom.
Just like giant people staring at them.
Ah. Aha.
Oh wait, it's gonna fall to the ground. Yep, it fell way down there.
Bye.
Or it's like
Oh, that's not coming back. That is gone.
We're going to rule them
Bye,
all.
drop.
Exactly.
I can print again.
Yes.
Are we moving? Is someone moving?
Bye.
Okay, this is
Oh,
how
wait,
we're
that's a
doing the
very
next
up-close
meetup.
photo.
We're gonna have a
Yes.
scale version of the clubhouse and just confuse everyone.
Yes.
Only
Anyone
like
who
that.
arrives late is just like, wait, what a minute,
Jolene,
wait a minute.
you're
Like
so
you just have like a
big.
table with this
Oh
on
my
it,
God.
and everyone's
You're
just like,
taking up
wait,
the
where'd
whole-
everyone go?
Everybody,
That'd be a
so
great
close.
idea.
This is like a dollhouse.
Oh,
Whoa!
Oh my
What's
goodness.
this big boy here?
This is amazing.
What's this big boy here?
He looks like an entire pumpkin.
Oh no, the child in the house. The child in the house.
Get out of my house.
Hi.